That is already posted on Facebook. This is more of a deep dive so that we can introduce Chuck Russell and we can talk about a couple of things. Chuck, how about you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Chuck Russell. I work for the National Park Service, the Regional Fire Management Officer in Alaska for the parks up there, national parks up there, and I am an IC trainee on the Type 1 Alaska team.
So to break that down, that's Incident Commander Trainee. That's the top of our organization. And we're going to address two questions today we've heard from the public. Yesterday, our operations chiefs, Karen Scholl and Brad Washout, were having dinner in town, and a very nice couple asked, so tell us about what is an incident management team, and why is it not called a fire management team? And I thought that'd be a good chance for you to explain all that we do.
You bet. So an incident management team is a group of individuals that provide structure to relieve the burden off the local unit because they've got initial attack to continue to focus on. They've got other responsibilities to focus on. And so we come in to relieve them of that burden so they can continue to focus on their regular jobs, and because it becomes too complex. And so we manage the most complex of incidents that happen within the United States and in other countries. So that's what we come in and do, and we provide that structure that's necessary to keep our firefighters safe, or whoever the responders are that are out in the field safe, and manage the incident until it comes to a close or until our time runs out as far as the length of assignment.
And so we do wildfires. It sounds like when there's a flood these days, there's FEMA teams that come out, but they're also ordering incident management teams. Mudslide, earthquake, terrorist attack, 9/11.
Yep.
When the space shuttle exploded over the lower states, they called incident management teams
Yep.
to help grid for parts. And so in your experience now, what other than fire have you been on?
So I've been on a lot of assignments that have nothing to do with wildland fire. We've been on a tornado. We've been on 2 floods, one in Wyoming and front range flooding in Colorado. And that's the beauty of ICS, the Incident Command System, is it can be set in place for any sort of catastrophe or incident. It can be used to run a marathon and put that event together. It can be used for, which I need, a family reunion. It can be utilized for just about anything, and is, because it's effective. And if you think about my experience that I had in Larimer County in Colorado during front range flooding, it washed out all the roads. So 911 response to any of the communities in Colorado, it was impossible to reach them. So we took over that. We had a bunch of aviation assets, and we would respond to 911 calls. We were trying to get groceries into some of the communities, the stores. People couldn't get to them. They couldn't get their medication, etc. So we brought in veterinarians, we brought in doctors, we brought in nurses. We would send them up to the incident and or bring the public back out as was needed. And so an incident command team, once again, relieved that burden from the first responders within those communities so they could continue to focus on the structure fires that they get, the medical responses that they get. And another thing that happens oftentimes is their communication systems become overwhelmed when there's a conflagration like that. And we have the ability to come in with our radio repeater kits, strategically set them, and then run on our frequencies so that they can still do their responses in their locations. And an interesting story, I took a leadership class, and we did a staff ride, and the New York City Type 2 Incident Management Team was there also. And I visited with them, and they shared later with the whole class on, why are you into ICS now? And so when 9/11 happened, they were overwhelmed. And an incident management team came in, and they had all of these individuals, countries, and other organizations trying to assist them. And the chief was overwhelmed, and I guess he was a very blunt individual, and he essentially said, you've got 30 seconds to tell me what you can do for them. And the Type 1 IC that came in said, the chief, very short and abrupt, said, "You got 30 seconds, tell me what you can do for me." He goes, "Well, for just what I see right now, you're overwhelmed when it comes to your communications on your frequencies. We can run this incident on a completely different frequency. We can have it set up within 24 hours, and so we can get that clear." And the chief said, "You've just bought yourself 5 more minutes." And so he brought in his incident management team, C&G, and they laid out exactly what they would provide for the chief of the fire department in New York. And that incident management team did everything that they said that they would do. New York City Fire Department saw the value in that, and so they developed their own Type 2 incident management team to handle incidents in the future. So ICS is proven. We've been doing it since, I believe, the 70s, and it can be applied to anything, and people see that value and want to emulate it.
Absolutely, and as I came up the chain of command here, and C&G, to break it down, is command and general staff. That's the leadership of these teams: operations chief, logistics chief, incident commander, safety officer, information, finance chiefs. The simple phrase, order out of chaos.
Yep.
That we, as an incident management team, our job, our end state, what we want to achieve is order out of chaos, right? And it's not necessarily our emergency. So one of the ways we stay calm, at least when I came up, you have much more experience than I do, is our mentorship was, hey, this is somebody else's emergency. We train for this. We come in to remain calm, to do our job, to look at the big picture, take the radio frequency piece from the chief, make that happen.
Yep.
And now over the years, we get to work with FDNY, Fire Department of New York. They've come out. We always try to get their PIOs out, public information officers out. This year they're on lockdown, though, because of the COVID.
Yep.
So some of our, Steve Ryan, and some of our best PIOs that have come and worked with the Alaska team from FDNY can't come out this year. And we look forward to them next year because their contributions are fantastic. We get that cross-cultural East Coast, Alaska, Midwest working together. Thanks for that. And then I want to make sure that folks know that you're a father of 2 amazing women, and they are both in Wildland Fire. And this year, as we were putting up the Facebook page early on in the bootleg, there was these incredible pyrocumulus clouds, flame fronts that we've never seen before, moving at a pace 4 miles a day here on the bootleg. All you locals know that. It's been very stressful. What's it like to have daughters involved in Wildland Fire as things get to be more extreme like this?
It's interesting. I've had 30 years in fires. This will be my 31st fire season. And so I've had a lot of experience in fire, and as you obviously have experience, your comfort level goes up. And you can try to explain to your family what you do. My parents probably still don't know to this day exactly what I do, although we talk about it a lot. But I've got that relationship with my daughters where I know exactly what they're doing, where they're at, and they know what I'm doing. And so it builds a comfort level because I understand the leadership that fire brings to the table and the experience level. And much to my wife's dismay, when they decided that when they graduated high school that that's what they wanted to do while going to college, it's been something that I have visited a lot at length with my wife about, is that, I know that we're going to put them in the best spot in fire to be safe, because that's what we do. That's our main focus.
Let's break that down. In the best spots. Now we're talking tactically, operationally. Your daughters have been hot shots and hell attack.
Yep.
So when you're saying best spot, we have the goal of the bootleg, and all the ranchers and all the timber folks and everybody in this community who has homes wants us to get full containment. Sometimes we have to be right up against that fire line to go direct. So when you say best spot, is that what you're talking about in the theater?
It is. What I'm talking about best spot is when we take into consideration the values at risk, we're also taking into consideration the risk to our firefighters to accomplish that mission. And many of the things in this world are replaceable. A life is not. And so we take that into consideration, obviously. It's our number one priority for both the public and our firefighters. And so we work hard to protect those values at risk, but we want to make sure a couple things are happening. One, that we can be successful with the workforce that we have and the tools that we have. And 2, that our firefighters are going to be safe. So we look at that time element. When's the fire going to get there? Do we have enough time to implement the tactics that have been planned to protect it? And then the element of, well, if we do have the time, what is the risk to our firefighters? Can we get them out in time if things go bad? And oftentimes when you see like an incident like this, when it is traveling and 30,000 acres a day, when you see dead cows, you see dead elk, you see deer, an elk and a deer can run a lot faster than a firefighter. And they were consumed by this incident. So we take that into consideration. And so when it comes to my daughters, it gives me a different perspective. One daughter currently is on the Tamarack fire, which is down on the Nevada-California border. And that too has been a very aggressive, large incident. But I personally know the incident commander. I personally know the ops section chief because I was in the Rocky Mountain geographic area for several years. And I know that they're going to put them in the best spots. And regardless of the incident management team, we're all trained, for the most part the same way. And that is on the same tactics and taking into consideration the fact that the individuals that are on that hotshot crew, the 20 folks that are on it, are somebody's daughter, somebody's son, uncle, brothers, husbands, wives. They all have some sort of relationship, and they're humans. And so we take that into consideration. They're precious to those people, and they're precious to us. And we're going to make sure that that's our number one priority is making sure we watch over them. And so my wife's comfort level comes from me being able to give her those assurances. Because once again, if you don't live the fire experience, it's difficult for you to understand it. I took a leadership class also, and it was taught by a Special Forces military individual. And he's been in Iraq and Afghanistan and all of these situations that I cannot, I don't have the mental slides for, nor can I picture myself being comfortable in that situation at all. And he mentioned, he goes, you guys are crazy what you do, being so close to that fire with all the different elements, the different fuels, the weather, the topography, all the different variables, and not knowing what the fire can do. And I told him, I said, we've got a comfort level with that. We can't picture being in your situation with human beings that are trying to, end your life, and the unpredictable nature of those individuals. And so it was interesting to have that different perspective, which made it clear to me that some people don't, fully understand because they haven't been in that situation and or trained. And as you have experience, your comfort level continues to go up. And that's how you get to positions. You guys do a great job in the PIO shop. It's because you've learned from your mistakes and learned from your successes to the point where the operation is pretty smooth. And same thing, we've got the best people out on the line in supervision roles for our firefighters. And so that's what I express to my wife, is that they are in good hands. And yeah, we sometimes have accidents, but we have accidents when we get in a vehicle and go to the grocery store too. So we just try to make sure they're in the best spots. And I have that faith that other leaders within the fire community have that same mindset as I do and are putting my daughters in the safest possible spot.
Excellent. So that's what we talk about, the best spot. Firefighter standing order number 10, fight fire aggressively, having provided for safety first. So for all the Green Pants Nation, that's all you out there who have been in fire, who have a relative in fire, who support the firefighters, you're part of that Green Pants Nation. Every day when we go to the fire line, we have to follow our standard orders, and that number 10. We're going to fight fire aggressively, having provided for lookouts, communications, escape routes, and safety zones. And ideally, across the board, in the middle of the afternoon these days, we take a little pause, right? We take about 5 minutes at 2 o'clock, and that helps us do what?
Yeah, just evaluate our situation. What's changing? Weather's changing, getting hotter and drier. Do we still have our communications? And obviously the fire world is dynamic. It's constantly changing. So we constantly change too with it. We put together a good plan, and sometimes those don't happen the way we planned them to happen. So then we fall back to what we call is our contingency plan. We've got our primary, our contingency, and so that's what we're always kind of thinking about. And as the fire progresses, you are moving in time and space along the incident, and so things are changing around you. You constantly need to be aware of that, and so taking that tactical pause and just reevaluating your situation is extremely important. And the other thing that's important is, as you're moving, as your line's progressing, how far is your escape route and your safety zone from you now? Because where you were right next to it when you briefed this morning, we're now 2 miles away. So is there a new escape route? Is there a new safety zone that's closer? And so we're always thinking about those things so that we can get folks out as quickly as possible if the need arises.
Yep. Constantly reassessing, constantly looking at the environment. We have a couple big days out there this week, folks. Today's going to get hotter. Tuesday, even hotter. And the RHs are supposed, the relative humidity is supposed to drop down to the single digits. And by Wednesday, we'll be holding our lines, using all of our aviation, and really trying to keep everything in check. While we're doing that, parents in the Green Pants Nation know that the incident commanders and operation chiefs are going to put your sons and daughters in the best spot. We appreciate that. And to Mrs. Russell, rest assured that your husband's doing a great job. Public out there, thanks for the great questions. Please leave them here, whether you're watching live or on the rebroadcast. We'll answer them throughout the day. And if there's a need to come back for a special breaking it down, we will, certainly. And again, we appreciate all the support for the firefighters. The best thing you can do to support them is defensible space, signs and banners that say thank you, because it's tiring out there. We don't need donations. We can't accept donations. Please bring those to your local fire departments, but call them first. The public wants to be part of the solution, neighbors helping neighbors, and we appreciate it. We'll come back with you with breaking news if we need to. Until then, we'll do our normal Facebook with operations updates and other videos too. So thanks, Chuck.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. And thanks, Al, behind the camera, and Christian and Dev monitoring.